The second most important thing when discussing credit quality of split shares is the income coverage. And that is essentially the same sort of idea as an asset coverage calculation. You're saying, well, how many dollars are available versus how many dollars do I need? So you're saying, okay, well, if it's like Mr. Micawber used to say in the Dickens novel, I think it was David Copperfield, income £20, income £19, 10 shillings, expenditure £20, result misery. Income £20, 10 shillings, expenditure £20, result happiness. Because, of course, in the latter case, he had an income coverage in excess of 1, which is much better than an income coverage of less than 1. So when you're calculating this, you should include only sustainable items in your income, and that's things like dividends. Of course, you can always take a view on the sustainability of those dividends, because underlying dividends, as FTU investors have found out, can sometimes go south. Their interest. I will also include securities lending income. I feel that that's a fairly stable source of revenue for the split share corporations. You can take your own views on that, of course, or on anything else, but I include it when I'm calculating income coverage. But you exclude things that aren't reproducible. Just because a portfolio went up 20% last year and realized $1 million worth of capital gains doesn't mean they're going to get that $1 million worth of capital gains next year. Sometimes the income statements of split share corporations in their financials are set up so that it really looks as if they are included. You know, they'll come up with net investment income, including everything, including capital gains of $20 million against preferred share dividends of $10 million. And if you're just reading things blindly, you might think, well, that's a good income coverage. But if most of that income was capital gains, it's not reproducible. You ignore it. And also covered call premia. We'll be discussing covered call premia a little bit more. I do not consider those to be a reproducible source of income that should be included in the numerator of the income coverage calculation. And then when you're looking at expenses, well, basically, you assume that almost everything is a sustainable expense. If they're paying $10,000 for audit this year, you can be pretty sure they're going to have to pay $10,000 next year. However, you do exclude performance fees. In some of the split share corporations will pay a performance fee to management if the returns exceed a certain level. Since you're interested in what happens if things go wrong, you don't include that as an expense for income coverage purposes. If they had expenses of $5 million, of which $4 million was a performance fee, you would only include your sustainable expenses of $1 million because, well, you want to pay performance fees. And if things go bad, which is the reason why you do credit quality analysis in the first place, then there's not going to be any performance fees. So I looked at my universe of split share preferreds and calculated the income coverage. And as you can see, most of them are in excess of 1. That is to say, well, given that we have the good fortune to live in a country where the financial system has not been completely devastated, the dividends keep on rolling in and are still sufficient in most cases to cover the dividends going out. There are a few exceptions, and there's some bad exceptions indeed. But that's the sort of universe that you should be looking at. that you should be comparing to when you're looking at the asset, at the income coverage of a particular split share in which you're investing. You should always remember that in most cases, the dividends coming in are going to more than cover the expenses going out. The management expense ratio, this is something that is, it's asset dependent, so in a lot of cases when you're calculating the income coverage, you can adjust it, because if the split share corporation is paying 2%, say, of NAV, well, when the NAV is $20, you know, that's going to be, what, 40 cents of expense. However, you're really only concerned with what happens when the NAV goes down to $10. So you might want to adjust your income coverage to say, okay, well, in our worst case scenario, the NAV is going to be $10, and therefore the management fee is only going to be 20 cents, not 40. So that's another adjustment you can make when you're examining the credit quality of a split share corporation and looking at your worst case scenarios. And as I mentioned, a lot of split share corporations will have option writing programs as part of their investment process. And these option writing programs are basically a gimmick. They are running a passive portfolio. They don't really have much to talk about. So in order to sell their capital units, they've got to tell a story. And the only story that they've been successful in telling in the last 5 years or so is that we have an option writing program, and we're going to make lots of free money because we're smarter than the other option guys. In some cases, that may well be true. But when you look at the prospectuses and you look at, well, you know, why should I trust these guys to run an option writing program for me? You typically will not find any reference to performance. You might find a reference to experience, and you might find a reference to asset under management. You will rarely, if ever, find a reference to actual performance. I know a lot of people in the business who have 20, 30, 40 years of experience, and will very proudly talk to potential clients about how experienced they are. When you dig behind the numbers, you find that most of their experience is comprised of vaporizing client money. And so until I see a lot better disclosure in the prospectuses of performance, and until I see a lot better review in the financial statements of where this option writing premium income comes from, I'm not going to pay much attention to it. Say, for instance, that I have a stock in my portfolio that's $50, and I can write an option for $1 to sell that at 55. Well, the stock goes up, and so and the option gets called. So in my income statement, I can include $5 capital gain, and I can include my option premium of $1, and I can say, look at how smart I am, I made $6. If the stock has gone up to 70, that's not so great. You could have held on to it and made 20. So, and there is not enough information given in any of the financial statements that I've seen that would allow one to discern, to tease apart the number and discover how much of their option writing premia and associated capital gains are simply wiped out or nullified by lost unrealized capital gain. So at any rate, that is why I don't take option writing programs too seriously, and why I don't include option writing premia in sustainable income.